transmissions detected.
Kill them all.
Hello my friends. Today I document a few weird things that were seen in the past just before an outbreak of the plague, a tsunami, an earthquake, volcanic eruption, or some other natural disaster. Like the castle over Augsburg in 1560. One spring morning in Augsburg, Germany, the clouds were said to have twisted into something extraordinary. Many of the townspeople reported the shape of a fortress appearing in the heavens. It arrived in a mist. It was all white, complete with tall towers, battlements, and walls. Then, just after arriving and stunning the onlookers, another complete fortress appeared, this one being darker or black in color, surrounded by dark clouds. Maybe this was the sons of light and the sons of darkness, right? Witnesses in the record described fire erupting from the towers and a sound like thunder roaring in the sky, apparently from their guns. This battle raged for over an hour before the castles faded back into the strange mist they came in. Like their world had bled over into ours for a little while. Anything that fell to the ground during this event was said to have burnt up into ashes, or simply disappeared. One man poured water on an orb that landed for a moment. It was said to have hissed and steamed as if it were extremely hot. Just like the orbs we see, they look like fire, right? They drip in metal, off of them. Who knows what's going on? But here's where things get dark, right? Days after this, while the people were still in shock of what happened, a plague or a pandemic just happened to sweep through the city where the castles had previously shown up at. The record says to the terrified population, the vision of that battle had been a warning to them from above. They believed that what goes on here affects another place that we can't see. And what goes on there in that unseen realm, in turn affects us the same way. As above, so below, I guess. Now here's a really old account. The Phantom Knights of Japan. In 989 in Kyoto, Japan, witnesses described glittering horsemen riding across the night sky. They were called Goro, or angry spirits of fallen warriors. Ancient text says this. Their armor shone like fire, and their banners carried light. The people feared them, for wherever these ghostly riders passed, calamity soon followed. But did you catch that? Their banners carried light, like they had. Offerings were left in the streets and alongside the roadside, in hopes that these phantom hosts would move on. I guess so they wouldn't disperse any of their bioagents or cause an earthquake or something. People were very superstitious. As I've said many times before, every other age in our brief history, except us, says that those people, those things are associated with, the bad guys. We know everything, so we just deny that. People would see these riders and fall on their faces, praying to God to help them or to intervene. You see, they never harmed anyone outright. All they did was spread mass panic whenever they were observed, and a little of the plague too, but it's madness, isn't it? I have no idea what they're seeing. Demons, the powers of the air, I don't know. In 1395, in many parts of England, appeared a thing in the likeness of fire, sometimes in one shape, sometimes in another, but in sundry places. At the same time, every night in November and December, chiefly in Leicester and Northamptonshire. Now we've seen those, the orbs, they were just spotted across Europe and Australia. 100 years later, in 1495, near Naples, in the territory of Berezza, were clearly seen in the air an infinite number of men armored on mighty horses, with a terrible noise of drums and trumpets accompanying them. Shortly after, they just simply vanished. Now, is that what was seen by prophets and holy men in the past, and they called them angels? I don't know. I mean, is it the same factions that stood beside Elijah and nobody could see him? Yeah. In 2 Kings 6 it says, when the servant of man got up and went out early the next morning, an army with horses and chariots surrounded the city. Oh no, my lord, what shall we do? The servant asked. Don't be afraid, the prophet answered. Those who are with us are more than those who are with them. Elisha then prayed, open his eyes, Lord, so that he may see. And the Lord opened the servant's eyes, and he looked and saw. The hills were full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elijah. So this wasn't a one-off. These events that took place match what biblical texts and documents say. A famous event everyone has, I'm sure, heard of by now, the Nuremberg Sky Battle, April 14th, 1561. Now, thousands of people saw this. It wasn't one person, a little bitty town. No, Nuremberg was quite a city back then. It says at dawn between 4 and 5, the people of Nuremberg awoke to one historian says was a dreadful apparition by many men and women. Hans Glacier, he officially recorded the entire event, said, at first there appeared two blood-red semicircular arcs, just like the moon in its last quarter. In the sun there stood a round ball of partly dull, partly black ferrous color. Likewise about the sun, such blood-red ones and other balls in large number. In between these globes there were visible a few blood-red crosses. These all started to fight amongst themselves, and they fell as if they all burned. They wasted away on the earth with immense smoke. After this there was something like a black spear seen in the sky. What is that, a spaceship? The citizens described hearing strange noises, like steel clashing and wood breaking. When it was over, the air was said to have smelled of an odd smoke. Now, is that what got everyone sick? Because these people knew what black powder smelled like. They knew what, gunpowder smelled like. So what is this? Glacier left this warning. Whatever such signs mean, God alone knows. The God-fearing will take it to heart as a warning, and faithfully beg him, may he avert his wrath. So people thought these were angels. They thought they worked for God. I mean, even today, many people react with disbelief when they read these things. But I would say this, that many witnesses were not mistaken or hallucinating and seeing mirages all at the same time. There's no way. Now, here's one. In 1639, during the chaos of the 30-Year War, Germans near Leipzig swore they saw a cavalry charging in the sky, which terrified people. The report tells us they came with unique banners, once again, unique banners with unknown symbols waving, horses stamping and the sound of swords clashing. The earth itself trembled. Now get this. They rode from out of the earth, and full armor was adorned by both horses and men. When this event ended, some say that the fallen riders melted into smoke. Others claim the ground swallowed up the ones that they saw whole. The people of Leipzig said it is not a vision, it was a nightmare that they had witnessed. Before their very eyes were the spirits of dead soldiers who were doomed to fight forever, and somehow they had manifested themselves into our world. Now, did this actually happen? I don't know. They say it's false, but I think denying something hundreds of years later is nonsense. No one knows because those people are long gone. All we have is official record to tell us what went down, but either way, these people saw something. Spirits, ghosts, I don't know. But it didn't just happen a few times. It happened more than you would think. In 1649, 10 years later, now understand this, in England, about this time, between the 1500s and 1700s, there were so many dragons seen. Now, they knew what a meteor was. They knew what a star was. The sun, the moon, everything, right? Now, there was no type of natural event that was a dragon. So when they said a dragon was flying around, catching everyone's houses on fire, until they took care of it. Now, I don't know what they did to it, but, several books and several records suggest that an actual animal that spit fire. I mean, it's crazy to say that, right? But that's what they're seeing. It says these two armies in Yorkshire, England, were seen in the air battling one another. They shot flaming spears at one another. Wonder what that could have been, huh? After a while, it just vanished. Almost 800 years ago, on January 1st, 1254, the moon being 8 days old, at night the sky was clear, and plainly seen in the air a prodigious large ship, which after some time seemed as though the boards and joints were loosed, and then it vanished. Now, was that some sort of device that made the craft look like a ship of their time, and why it did like that weirdness and disappeared? Yeah. Then we got the plague armies of Denmark. Again, in the 1600s, when the dragons were flying around and comets were like, 20,000 feet in the air, not, billions of miles away. Yeah. It says, right before the outbreak of the plague in Europe, villagers across all of Denmark reported strange sightings of ghostly soldiers marching through empty fields. They were seen both at night and in broad daylight. People swore they saw literal skeletons in shining armor digging graves, right before anyone had died of the plague. One eyewitness wrote, outside in the darkness at midnight we heard the beating of drums and clashing of steel, though no man was there. By morning the first victims of the plague lay dead. So see, these were seen by some people, but they were heard by everyone, the people who were scared to come outside. So they knew something was going on. They believed Death's army came first to prepare the way. And once these phantom soldiers vanished, the plague just inexplicably began. Now, my friends, that's just on another level. Obviously, angels wouldn't disperse chemicals on us, right? Or make everybody sick, right? But it was written in the Talmud that a rider, a scary apparition like a skeleton in golden armor, showed up on a fiery horse and smited a governor of Rome once for the Most High. So who really knows who these people work for, right? But it's wild, isn't it? I mean, I could go on forever. But with all of that said, what were these people in the past truly seeing? Some of us brush it off as optical illusions, mirages, people's imaginations that cause the sky to shape itself into castles and riders on horses. But how's it possible to be mistaken about such things as that? Oh, it just so happens that we see those same lights, the same orbs, the same ships, we hear the same trumpets, everything. It would suggest it's a very old problem to me. That's what it says to me. Maybe what was witnessed were the places where the veil is just weaker. Maybe they were truly battles of spirits and gods and forces beyond our understanding that took place at one time. Because usually someone's mind, usually a mirage, does not produce sound. It doesn't produce smell and smoke and physical objects bleeding and burning, turning into ashes on the ground. It definitely doesn't hiss when you pour water on it. I've never heard of mirages doing that, but one thing's for certain. For those who looked up and witnessed all these things in the air, the armies of fire on mountaintops with giants walking around, marching through the countryside, it was no hallucination. It was the reality taking place before these people's eyes. Those who heard the clashes and saw the guns and cannons blasting in the sky above them, it was no dream. The sight, the sound was all too real. And if we're saying it's all nonsense, what about the events that were recorded by the people we trust? If those accounts are real, then who are we to say these others in the past are not? Maybe they just felt it's necessary to document it so that we would at least know the truth when we can accept it, whether we believe it or not. It just seemed like it was no concern to them. They wrote it just as they thought it should be written. They didn't I promise you this is the truth. They just recorded it. It was up to us to, decipher for whatever reason. I mean, I honestly don't have a clue either way. It's just, I don't know. It's just what I needed to say, really. My love to you all. I'm Wild Dog, and I am out of here.
charge.